Okay.
The Bianchi guns are just the craziest thing. The open guns are just the craziest things, and I love it because it's like, again, something that came out of Star Wars instead of a real gun. So
Right. So at the 25 yard and beyond, you are going to the prone?
yeah, so I go prone at 25. I go prone at 20 on the plates, 20 and 25, but generally on the plates and on the practical, I'm going prone at 25. On the plates, I'll go prone at 20, and I had a little disaster factor at the last match, so you will see me going prone at 15 yards by the time the Bianchi Cup rolls around.
Okay. Well, you
'Cause,
can't do that. You got to explain what this disaster factor was. What happened?
so, I walk in and I'm like, I no big deal, 15 yards draw, no big deal. Well, I walk out, go to shoot and miss, and that happened at the Cup last year, and so I thought, whatever. So anyway, I it was a first stage, and I was a little kind of shaky, and I got the bugs out on, I got the bugs out, and so I said, you know what, man, it's not worth the risk to maybe miss a plate, because if you miss a plate, you're instantly down 10 points, and there's just no way you're going to recover from that. So the it's all about the plates, as folks will say. So I just was like, hey, all right, my fat ass is going to be wallering down on the ground at 15 too. Uh, I know no excuses. We're making it happen. So
Okay. All right. Now, what if just so that I can wrap my head around it again? At 15 yards, what was the par time and how many rounds do you have to shoot?
so at 15 yards on the plate rack, the par time is 7 seconds, which is pretty generous when you're standing. But when you go prone, you add in, most people are getting their first shot off in around 3.5 seconds. So, you got another 3.5 seconds to run the plates. But it's just one of those things that on the surface, it seems really simple. Like, and it is when you're at home and there's nobody watching. And if you miss, whatever, you still get to go
Right.
home but then, the PP factor when when there's people around and it's here it is pretty high. So I had driven 7 hours the night before to get to the match, and just I could throw out every excuse in the world, but I ganked it, and so I said, hey, all right, that's enough messing around. We're doing it. So yeah, at 10 yards you got 6 seconds, 15, 7, 20 you got 8, and 25 you got 9 seconds. So.
Okay. And how far are you from CMP? I assume that's where they're going to hold the Bianchi Cup from now on.
So CMP at least now is committed to continuing to hold the cup at Green Valley Rifle and Pistol Club in Columbia, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
So
So
yeah,
you're
and
still
so
half the
for
United States away.
yeah, I used to have a real sweet deal. I played with the Missouri Symphony. I played principal trombone for 10 or 12 years there, and I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't shooting at the time, so I didn't know that this amazing range was right there until last summer. So I bought a membership and I went up there for 6 weeks, and I think, I mean, I spent more time at the range than I did doing my actual job of performing music. But yeah, they have it. They have it there, and it is a Bianchi range. I mean, they have some 180 USPSA ranges, and they run USPSA matches every month. But that range is a Bianchi range. Turners, barricades, resetting plate racks. The plate racks lock, so if you're late on a shot, you can hit it. It just doesn't fall.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's how they keep you honest on the plate rack is there's a buzzer and the buzzer goes off, but the plate rack also locks, and so if you're late, it just doesn't go down.
Oh wow, I like that. That's awesome. And each steel plate on the plate rack is worth 10 points.
Yes, and 1x.
Woo.
So
Oh,
it adds to
okay.
your X count. It adds to
Okay.
your X count, but it's also worth 10 points. So, like at the Crawfish Cup last weekend, I think there were 3 people that shot a 1920, a perfect score. And the match was decided by X count. I think the guy that won shot 180x, which is ridiculous,
Out of
just out of this world.
192.
Out of 192. So only 12 shots that whole day weren't in that ring. And Bruce Pyatt, I think, probably has the record on X's in a competition. I think he shot 186 a couple months ago at
Wow.
one of the matches. So yeah, so it's like if you miss a plate, you're just down 10 points, and shooting a
That's all.
1910 versus a 1920 might take you from top 10 to top 30 or 25, just depending on the year. So
Right. Yeah, depending on who you're shooting against.
right, yeah.
Absolutely. So I get that. So, all right. Action pistol versus practical shooting. So NRA action pistol, Bianchi style shooting versus practical shooting. Have they complemented each other in your shooting, or has one helped the other more?
So shooting action pistol has helped me in the other sports. I would say more than the other sports have helped me in action pistol.
I would have
Now,
guessed that.
I was very comfortable with drawing from the surrender position because of Steel Challenge. And so I would say I'm significantly more comfortable drawing from the surrender position than I am hands relaxed at sides. But either way. Now, I would say I struggled a lot to really get over some humps in Steel Challenge. And then I started shooting action pistol. And within a very short order, I'm shooting A class on most stages in Steel Challenge. And it was immediate. And without ever practicing Steel Challenge, just practicing action pistol, I became significantly more accurate. And in USPSA, I don't shoot fast. I don't move fast. The pace that I shoot is very action pistol oriented, but I can call every shot. At the last USPSA match I shot, we'd go around and the guy that was ROing was jokingly like, "Well, why don't we just go around and just find one that's not an alpha?" And and I, so we we would get done with a stage, and the guy goes to score, and I was like, they're all alphas, but there's one Charlie. And he looked at me kind of like, what? And then he goes to score, and they were all alphas and one Charlie. So it has led to being able to really call my shots a lot better. And it doesn't mean I'm fantastic or amazing or a great shooter or whatever. It just the level of focus and accuracy that's necessary for action pistol made my shooting in every other sport that much better and that much more enjoyable. I
So
always
how
joke. I
much?
tell people like, oh, I tell people like, it is fun for me to shoot action pistol, but I don't do it for fun, because it can also crush my soul really hard. But Steel Challenge and USPSA, I have a lot of fun. I can go out and I can come in dead middle in USPSA and think that was awesome. I had a great time, and so that's kind of how action pistol is for me. It's a labor of love, and it's fun, but I don't do it for fun.
I got you. It's a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I would have guessed going in before I asked the question, I was like, I would assume that action pistol would help your practical shooting and still challenge more than the other ways around. Now, do you think the lack of lateral movement in action pistol and the intense focus on accuracy, do you think that has slowed down any progress that you've tried to make in USPSA style shooting, practical shooting?
Absolutely. When I go out to the range, I'm gonna practice action pistol. So the tempos that I have in my head are action pistol tempos. So it's pop pop, not pop pop. And so I wouldn't say it slowed me down, but because I don't really do any practicing that's not action pistol, uh, that that part of it has not helped my speed in USPSA, but
Right.
it has helped the accuracy. So it's kind of six of one, half a dozen of the other. If you're somebody who's already fast or you're comfortable with being shooting fast, and you go shoot action pistol, you're going to be that much more accurate. And of course that's going to translate over 4-inch circle versus that shooting alphas, so it hasn't hurt me, but because I don't actually get out and do benchmark drills in USPSA, it hasn't helped. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that's where I would see it, because I always say I found practical shooting much later in life. So all of my bullseye style shooting, I feel has slowed down my practical shooting, and I've been having to break that habit of being precise and accepting more general accuracy versus precision accuracy. So that's what I mean by slowing you down. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was the hardest thing in USPSA, and I still can't do it. I can't divorce that it's okay for them not to be right next to each other, and and so that slows me down because I just internally mentally have a hard time reconciling that it's okay to shoot fast enough that it's accurate enough with the hit factor and everything. I will
Right.
say for a while that Dickens drill was really popular, and my
Yes.
my local club they put that stage on as like a side stage, and
Okay.
so everybody goes and you draw and it's at 40 yards and you're doing, and that was like that was my crowning moment as an action pistol shooter. That like these guys who were winning the match had like one on cardboard and mine were all right, right there, and I'm going, okay, let's go home now. That's the match is
Right.
done.
I'm quitting
So I
while
go
I'm winning.
home.
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly. So I think action pistol for the USPSA shooter or the steel shooter that is really serious about it is extraordinarily beneficial because one, your gun has to run. There's no makeup shots. So if you have a jam, it's got to run. You're just done. And then as well, there is no opportunity to lose focus even a little bit and be accurate enough. You have to be accurate. So anybody I've seen shoot action pistol, they go back to USPSA and they are much more accurate shooters.
I mean, it's NRA Action pistol would be like shooting a Virginia part-time stage every single stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're limited on your time, you're limited on your shots. That's all you can do. That's it. That's
Yep.
so, yeah, which would drive a
Love it.
USPSA shooter crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it
I mean,
has
that's what
benefits.
absolutely. And the sports kind of speak to different people. Some people, I find that people that really love USPSA love the fact that it's different every time. And you don't know what you're going to walk into. I'm drawn to games that are the same every time so that I can month to month, week to week see that progress. And I think there's a place for balance there. But that's kind of what I won't say pushed me away from USPSA because I still shoot it. It's just what has kept me from pouring myself into it the same way I do action pistol.
I get it. And people say the same thing about Steel Challenge. They don't want to add more stages. They don't want to change the stages because they like being able to measure one to one. And look, I have I shoot a Canic in competition, and I carry a Canic as my everyday carry. I have shot both of them in Steel Challenge, and on Smoke and Hope. So I have Excel spreadsheets for everything. It's dumb. I am dumb. I'll just say it now.
That's my
If it
man.
has
I love it.
if it has a number and I can put it in an Excel spreadsheet, I'm an idiot and I will do it. Okay?
Yes.
And so I literally have spreadsheets of all of my Steel Challenge stuff, and I compare them, and I am 1/10 of a second slower with my carry gun than I am my competition gun. So I'm like, fantastic. This is, I mean, I can't there's no better way to measure how accurate and fast I am with my carry gun than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's my kind of thing, man. You warmed my heart there to hear that you had a spreadsheet with your times on it. So I got
I have so many spreadsheets. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So I will spreadsheet anything and everything. So I make spreadsheets at work on different things. It's dumb. Now, I want to go back in time to the post I made on Instagram. We talked about it a little bit earlier about how you run your dot on your action pistol gun. Now, I would say, as someone who has created ballistic classes and taught ballistics classes to Marine snipers and other people, that when you're adjusting, yes, it is line of sight through the dot, but you're matching up that line of sight with the trajectory of the bullet. And
Right.
and you know what that is. So you know that when you go from yard line to yard line, when you drop the elevation turret to a certain number, now you've aligned your line of sight to the trajectory of the bullet at that certain distance. So if you could explain to me exactly what you're doing with your elevation and your windage stuff.
Okay. So that was a really interesting exchange, and I was like, man, am I off here? You know. So I asked a bunch of my action pistol buddies, and they're like, no, it makes sense to me. So if it's this gun, you know, I don't have to worry about really zeroing at a particular distance. I do go out to 50
Right.
yards, and as far as my elevation is concerned, you know, there's a screw on here that pops off, and so I adjust until the group is dead in the middle of the X-ring as far as elevation goes, and then on the side, this little cap comes off, and that's what lets me adjust my windage. So when I was talking about how I zero, let's say my USPSA gun, that it's zeroed at 15 yards for elevation, but 50 yards for windage. So maybe it's like I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm going to keep some of my opinions on that to my exchange to myself. But what all it is I'm going to get rested. I usually go prone to do it or use a bag. And at 15 yards, I'm going to sit at 15 yards, and I'm going to make sure that vertically those impacts are exactly where I want them to be.
Okay.
And then I'm going to adjust the windage knob so that they're as close as I can get them to where I think they should be, right? So I'm dead lined up. And then I'm going to walk my rear end back to 50 yards and lay down.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the same thing. But at this point, I don't care about where they are vertically. All I care about is where they are horizontally. So at 50 yards, I'm going to walk back with that SIG X5, and I'm going to shoot a group and look and see where it lined up, because like I was kind of trying to explain, like at 15 yards, it's hard to see a half-inch deviation when you shoot. But that half-inch deviation at 50 becomes 1.6 inches. So is that 1.6 inches really the difference between whatever? No, but it makes me feel better, and it lets me know that if something's a little off one way or the other, it's not the gun. It's me. And so that's what I do for every dot is I'm going to, let's say it's 15 yards. I'm going to make sure they're up and down exactly where I want them to be at 15 yards. Then I'm going to walk back to 50 and make sure that, laterally they are dead in the middle too, because that 50 yards is going to show up and magnify any small deviation to the left or right in my windage knob.
Yes.
Does that make more sense?
Yes. And that is exactly what I think. I think that's so. There was even like I was having a hard time tracking it too. But it's so easy to misinterpret stuff that's written.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to explain every little nuance of what you're trying to say without typing out 1,000 words. So you're just going through the normal zeroing process. At 15 yards, you're matching up the vertical and the horizontal to 0.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 50 yards, you don't care about the vertical because you're going to adjust that anyway. You just want to make sure the windage is still at 0.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it makes
I mean,
perfect
I was
sense.
going over and I'm like, I don't understand, and so again, I'll keep my opinions on that a little bit to myself, but yeah, there's nothing, no magic in it. But that's how I do with dots that I can't adjust is so my Bianchi gun, yeah, I'm going to have it on 0 at 50 yards. And then, but if it's my USPSA gun and a steel gun, I know that they're not going to be point of aim, point of impact's not going to be the same. All I'm worried about is lateral deviation.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. I know what you're saying. Because what I was posting was assuming that there was no windage deviation, and when you zeroed, your group was centered on your point of aim. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So thinking like a crosshair, the center of your group, however many shots that is, would be centered up in the center of that crosshair. So that at 50 yards, then it'll be a bigger group, but it should still be somewhat centered around that center of that crosshair. My whole thing was if I zero at 15, I can shoot from 5 to 50 and be within a half inch vertically of that crosshair regardless. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And that's where you and I connect, because it's that how can I make it as close as possible to give myself every bit of space to work with? That's all we're doing.
Yeah. I love that that you put that out there. I have a buddy that shoots a aim point acro, and he can't adjust his elevation on the fly. And so he's going, dude, what do I do?
Right.
And I was like, dude, go adjust your dot at 15 yards and then get the windage right at 50, and then just put the dot in the middle of the X-ring for the whole stage. And at most, you're going to be a half inch one direction or the other, and just call it a day.
There you go.
And so I'm glad that we lined up on that, because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm asking all my buddies, like, dude, am I riding a short bus, and what is going on? Because and so I think one of my friends was like, I think it's just a term thing, like maybe you should say you adjust your windage, or you whatever. So, or you
no, you're saying what I get was you're zeroing your elevation at 15 and you're zeroing your windage at 50. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So there you go. We just summed it up in 2 sentences.
Got it.
All done. Now, I would hope, though, that I would actually be upset if I zeroed at 15 and I felt like my group was dead zero, and then shot at 50 and found that there was a windage shift, because then I'd feel like there's something up with the dot itself, and it shouldn't be shifting that, 1.6 inches. But I still like what you're doing, because you're confirming that windage at 50 yards. So I'm down with that. I know exactly what you're saying. I'm tracking.
Yeah. So it's like if you put a paster out and it's 7/8 of an inch, and you're shooting at, let's say, 10 yards, and one of them just lands on the edge, you're going to be like 2 inches off by the time you get to 50, which
Right.
in practical application is negligible
Right.
realistically.
Yep.
But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what if I gank it a little bit at 50, and then there's also a deviation, and that might turn into an 8, instead of a 10. And so it's like all these little advantages that don't seem to make much sense, amount to a legitimate difference in your shooting.
And I think this is where the one advantage I might say that a precision shooter has over a practical shooter is understanding accuracy. And how all of that, how being off a little bit at 10 or 15, while practically may not matter, precisely it does matter at bigger distances. It does make a difference. So there is that concept. So that whole post was just really bringing precision into practicality. So, or practicality into precision. I don't know, either way.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, Josh, that's what I had for tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Like we talked about, but you're like, oh, I meant to say this or that.
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
I would love to encourage USPSA shooters and Steel Challenge shooters and IDPA shooters and everybody to go out and try Action Pistol. It is it's kind of a dying sport. At one time, it was really big. There were 300 and plus shooters at the Bianchi Cup, and now there's like 140, 150. And so I'm stepping up to do my part. I'm going to start an Action Pistol podcast just for Action Pistol. We've started a match at the Escambia River Gun Club, and so I'm gonna, I just would love to get the word out more about it. There are some fantastic shooters that come out, some names that you would know. Julie Golub, is a regular at every Action Pistol match, and she really made it her mission to get out and promote the sport and do her part and be a great ambassador. But she can't do it by herself, and I'm like, hey, I'm not the greatest shooter in the world, but I can shoot video and I can do audio and I can do all that. So hey, I'm gonna get out and try to do my part as well. And we've got some fantastic.
But most importantly,
shooters.
you have passion.
I do.
Yes.
What I lack in talent, I make up for in passion.
Bingo. There you go.
Yeah.
That matters. It really matters.
Absolutely. And these guys, Bruce Pyatt, Vance Schmidt, Walter Johnson, almost Anthony Heinauer from the Army Marksmanship Unit, and Jeremy Newell and Mark Idstein and the Chesney brothers. Man, the Chesney brothers are the funnest guys you ever shoot with. But there's all these names that are just phenomenal shooters, phenomenal,
Doug Koenig.
out of this world shooters. Doug Koenig has won the Bianchi Cup more than anybody else by
Ridiculous
a lot.
number of times.
And
yeah.
And so he's like the
He's
most
the
famous
GOAT
shooter.
of Bianchi.
He is. He's the GOAT of all kinds of stuff. But so I hope that people will get out and try it out. It is kind of humbling, like your first time, but give it a shot, and it's fun. So, and the guns are insane.
So what do you have to do to qualify for Bianchi Cup? Is it like going to nationals? You just have to register as long as you register before all the slots are taken?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just register. One of the things that early on they decided was that it should be open for everybody. So if you want to shoot the cup, it's pay your money and go do it. And none of the matches that the larger matches have any sort of qualifying or slots or anything of that nature. It's like if there's 500 people that show up, then they will run the match over 4 days instead of 2 or 3, and they'll just make it work. So there's nothing like that. You just show up, and you've got your classes the same way you do in USPSA. They're a little bit different, but you've got those. So they're not going to pair you a brand new shooter that's unclassified with a high master and have you be just embarrassed, but they'll keep you. They'll keep you with people in your level.
I'm trying to get him to put his head on screen, but he won't. He's the big one. He's a 180 pounder.
Woo!
Yeah,
My
he's a
girl's
big boy.
165. That's something.
He's a big. Yeah, my other one's 150. So yeah, they're both. There's a lot of dog. Well, Josh, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a very fun conversation, and I wish you the best. And hopefully, I'll see you out on the range somewhere.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. I appreciate it, man.
Until next time.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.